we're going back to Jamie, just you and Jamie. Tell me who you got. You brought us an interesting guest. Introduce your guest. Tell us a little about him, and you guys talk a little bit about some football.
Yes, I'm so excited. We have Peter Burns of the SEC Network. I mean, one of the most integral faces and voices of SEC Network. You can catch him every morning on SEC Now. Hey, Peter, thanks so much for being with us.
I'm pumped. Yeah, I was just starting to look at that Ole Miss schedule y'all were just talking about. I'm like, that's the reason why. Like, I'm in studio every single weekend or doing a show every single weekend, and I actually took a weekend off because I got to go to the LSU Ole Miss game this year. Like that normally, as you know, as a Bama fan, normally I take off the Alabama game and go down to Baton Rouge for it. But I think that Ole Miss LSU game is going to be crazy, and I don't know what to expect out of Ole Miss. Hell, I don't even know what to expect about any of these teams so far. All I know is Georgia's really good, and everybody else trying to figure out what the hell they are right now.
Lots of question marks, lots of question marks. But let's talk about you first. We have your SEC This Morning show, but now you've got your own show every Saturday at noon with SEC Now Live. And we've actually pushed back college football kickoff on SEC Network. Did they do that strictly because of you?
I would love to say that would be the case, but I don't have enough talent to do that. And the reason why, guys, so they moved it back to 12:45. It kind of goes back to like what March Madness was. So think about it. Like we traditionally always had these noon kickoffs, so every single one of the games would go to halftime at the same time, or the endings would be great, but they'd all end at the same time. So they were all kind of crushing each other on the ratings. So when ESPN and Disney and ABC got the rights to all the SEC games, they figured, hey, why don't we just move the game back to 12:45? And that way they wanted to have a 45-minute tailgate show. So I did week one, got to go a chance to go down to Knoxville and see Tennessee. Nico Iamaleava is legit, and that defense might even be better than the Tennessee offense. Last week I was just there at Texas A&M. Connor Wegman looked okay. They got a big game, of course, going up against Florida down in the swamp that Billy Napier has to have. And this week, actually, I'll be at the only ranked game on the slate on Saturday. Kind of weird to see Bill O'Brien back coaching college. He's got Boston College at 2-0, facing Eli Drinkwitz in Missouri. So I'll be up in Columbia for that game, and that'll be ranked versus ranked. So it's a pain in the ass to get to, but it'll be fun to go up there and see Missouri finally get a chance to play.
Cool. And, MIZ.
Yo, there you go. Look at you. Oh, how about that? True SEC fan.
Well, we like to talk about fun stuff on the show, Peter, and you have a yearly bet with your co-host of SEC This Morning, Chris Doring. And last year, you and I even had a brainstorming session about what the bet should be. But please share with the class about the bet. And I understand that the record is pretty lopsided, too.
5-0. I mean, obviously, my co-host, he was Hall of Fame college football player for the Florida Gators. So he's in a world of hurt right now with how bad the Gators are. But yeah, we always have that LSU Florida wager. He's had to dress up like a clown, like Tiger King back in the day. He's had to dress up like this Mr. Peanut. We got a really good one this year, but my favorite one is when LSU ended up beating Florida in the College World Series. He had to dress up as an LSU baseball player, and he had to fly from Florida all the way to media days for SEC media days. So in that outfit. So it's good. Now the question is, are we going to have a LSU Alabama wager between you and I? That's the big question that we're going to have this year.
I think we should start talking about that. All right. I'll give you a call after the show and we can figure it out. So this is a two-parter. We now have 2 weeks of the regular season under our belt. And so from what you've seen so far, how many SEC teams do you think make the college football playoff? Number one. And number two, do you think we're still going to have kind of like that similar rotation of those same 4 teams winning, even though we now have more teams at the dance? Do you think there's going to be upsets, or do you think it's just, they get to play and have fun, but it's going to be the same kind of consistent 4 teams?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think right now at ESPN, I just got the analytics a couple of days ago, and it said 90% chance that the SEC gets 4 or more teams. There's actually a 55% chance they get 5 teams in with the way that it's been played out so far. So I'm still thinking it's going to be 4, which is a good number. The problem is once you get down to 5 and 6, doesn't matter. Like you're saying, are they there and they're going to have a little bit of success, but can they win it? I think now think about it. If you play in a 12-game season, You play the SEC championship game. That's 13. Let's say you lose the SEC championship game. That means you're going to play a round 1 game, a round 2 game, and a possible national championship. You're talking about 16-game season. I mean, that's what the NFL did. So I think that's why you see this kind of crossroads right now with college players wanting all the money and name, image, and likeness, and they want to have almost a players association because they're thinking everybody's making billions of dollars. Well, right now you're asking us to play 16 games for television. Like, that's a whole hell of a lot. So, that's why every starting quarterback in this league right now probably makes at least $1 million or $1.5 million.
Wild. Well, we talked about the teams. Now let's talk about those players specifically and get into our way too early Heisman race. What do you make of what you've seen from these quarterbacks so far? I think let's toss to our graphic guys and who in the SEC has the best shot of winning the Heisman.
That's a good graphic. I mean, you start looking at every single one of those guys. Carson Beck, of course. I mean, they are more kind of on cruise control, so I don't think he gets the love that he's supposed to get. Jackson Dart, I mean, they've outscored their opponents 128-3 in the first 2 weeks. So, I mean, Dart is legit. Milroe, obviously, we saw last week the offensive line still is an issue right now. They had a bunch of pressures on them, but the way Quinn went up to Ann Arbor and did exactly what he did up against Alabama and Tuscaloosa was incredible. 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, and now the fact they lost C.J. Baxter and lost another running back in preseason, I think that Sark's going to have to develop his offense to pass it a little bit more. So, truthfully, look and see what Quinn Ewers does in that game against Georgia coming up in mid-October. That to me is a Heisman defining type game right now.